afternoon. It's time to start our professional development session. Today's topic is effective discussion boards, and continuing our professional development hit parade series. The topic for this is I heard it through the grapevine. How do we share our information, and how does it come across to our students? And that song was originally put out by Marvin Gaye in 1968, and then the California Raisins did a version of it in '87. So what we're going to think about and talk about today is rationale for why, as an instructor, we would want to use discussion boards. We're going to take a look at the student perspective on discussion boards based on a research study, and get into a classic variation, apply Socratic questioning for some in-depth dialogue, and then share some successes for moving things into successes. So thank you, welcome to be here. So here's a question. Do our students learn from discussion boards? Do they get it? As instructors, it's important to us. We feel like that's a natural progression from a face-to-face class into online. But what we were wondering about is, do the students have a clear perspective on it? Do they wonder why in the world we bother to discuss it instead of can't you just lecture? One of the articles I read indicated that in talking to students, they would get some kind of probably not too pleasant answers saying, well, you didn't want to plan a lecture today, so we're doing a discussion. So perhaps it's time to consider your intent in creating a discussion board versus the learner assumptions for discussion boards. So what are your goals? How do they connect to those all-important objectives and the outcomes that you want to happen because of the discussion boards? And what is the teacher's role in planning and carrying out the discussion board? So getting across to the students the idea that discussing things can actually support their learning process. This is some information from a research study, and say from the student grapevine. And this, as the students were did a research on the students' perceptions of the discussions. The four topics that they came up with was that they helped them challenge their own ideas, they helped them develop their ideas, they helped them acquire ideas and check ideas. And as the researchers looked at this was a qualitative study, and realized that the first two, challenging ideas and developing ideas, were some of that really deep thinking that we want our students to get from the whole discussion board concepts. And so as instructors, it's important for us to give them the opportunity to reflect on what they have done and to take a look and read some of the posts and interact with their colleagues and consider some of the important ideas that are coming out through the discussion board. So the interaction and the student engagement are indeed factors in the success. I found a really interesting article that was calls it what? Move over Socrates, online discussion is here. And the author indicated that this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to go back to the whole Socratic questioning format, because it is the perfect environment for it. So the question types through the Socratic questioning were questions that can clarify concepts for our students, cause them to really think about the assumptions that they make, and maybe rethink and reform ideas. Think about the rationales, the reasons, and the evidence that are there for them. Questions might be able to give them a different viewpoint and a different perspective on what's happening, what their ideas and their thoughts are, and perhaps even consider the implications or the consequences of the approach that they're taking. And then, of course, there's the fact that the Socratic questioning format brings up more questions about the questions. It's open-ended. It is not, here's the facts, here's what you need to know, end of discussion, moving on. So let's take a look at the ideas that have been posted on the Padlet. Oh, okay, thank you. And if you haven't had a chance to put something up, please feel free to do so. We'll need to shift it around a little bit to get to some of them, right? Yeah, okay, that works. That works, that's fine, thank you. So let's see what some of them are. One of them that came up on Joanne posted was that it's interesting that she feels like the online posts are more detailed and informed than the face-to-face discussions generally are. The whole class is involved and engaged, and I have seen this happen, and I've had worked with professors who also reinforce this idea that if they have the opportunity to think about what they are going to post and maybe write it down and edit and reword it, they're more likely to get a really good, in-depth and engaging thought on there. I'll come back to Mitch's in a moment. Mary says it can go either way, a great strategy or a complete mess. And it isn't everything that we do as teachers have that potential outcome. And the beauty of it is we have the opportunity to reflect and say, okay, what's going wrong? How can I redirect this? And in a discussion board, an online discussion board, you can do that. You can redirect. You can step in and make a change in what's happening. You create and have your peers respond to your own prompt. And that is indeed the approach to it, is being able to post, respond, and then have your colleagues, your own peers, come back and address your post. The one that, Kathy said the idea of posting links to projects on the discussion board and allowing peers to share ideas and provide feedback. And that is an excellent strategy to use where they're doing a project, particularly if they're doing a group project. You take a look at it within the group, where the group has submitted it, and then post it to the whole class discussion board so that everyone else in the class can read, can look at the project, can respond to it, and give them feedback. So it gives everyone the opportunity to get involved in all of the topics. And the one that I put was, I've recently had some really amazing comments on the topic of curriculum. And as I was thinking about doing this presentation and thinking about why those interactions and going back and forth worked the way they did, I'm not really sure why. It's a graduate level course, and they have to, actually what they have done is realize that curriculum means so much more than what we typically think about it as meaning, and that it changes based on what class we're in, who we're talking to, what our perspective is on the content at that particular point in time. But as far as the reason for them having such interesting interchange back and forth, they've actually read each other's posts and have commented and addressed them. It's rewarding to me to see it come out that way. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly why, but I'm glad. we had someone say, excuse me, that there are concerns about posts and responses that really don't say much. And that is indeed one of the concerns that instructors have about using the discussion board in an effective way, that students get lax about what they post and just reinforce the other person's idea and have it count as, okay, yeah, I responded to 2 of my peers. So that takes some thought and concentration about the questions and the format, the way we set the whole board up. And then we have one up there that says, does anyone have concerns about plagiarism? And of course, this is always a possible concern. That would depend upon the degree to which the amount of how much that discussion is worth, whether or not they want to actually do their own research or come up with something. It also depends on what the instructor wants to, how the instructor requires it. If they're requiring the reference listing and the citations, which most instructors do, because if you're going to cite something, you're going to put information in there, you want to make sure that you cite where it comes from. But yeah, and plagiarism is one of those things that needs to be addressed immediately as soon as you see it. That, of course, would be addressed individually. The idea of responses that don't really say much also has to be addressed immediately, because if other students see that that's an acceptable response, then they're going to fall into that response format as well. So we've have had some excellent thoughts and ideas in here. This Padlet will remain open so that you can come back in and post some more things. Franz, you're welcome to come in and post on it as well. We've got it. It's up on these. Thank you. So some of the tips from a teacher perspective and this again is from some of the articles that I've read. This one is from Ash, a 2013 article, that she felt that it was important to reduce the number of discussions. If you're requiring them to participate in a discussion board every week, it does not give them time, number one, to come up with their own substantive posts and responses, as well as to reflect on what they've been reading and have a positive way of positive feedback, a way of responding to it. Summarizing the discussions is an excellent way of identifying when the discussion is going in a good direction, as well as you're reading through it from the instructor's perspective, you can pick out quotes from different students so that they know and recognize that you are indeed reading them, but giving it a summary at the end enables the instructor to be able to address what's being said or redirect if that's the direction that it needs to go. Another tip, especially effective for large class sizes, is to use groups in the discussion boards so that they are not having to try to respond to 30 or 40 or more students. They can respond within their group, and one of the articles indicated that she kept the groups together throughout the semester so that they became familiar with each other and knew how, were comfortable with responding to each other in certain ways. And I think Mary had some ideas on another way of effectively using a group strategy in discussion boards. You want to share? Oh, yeah, there you are. Thank you.
And this ties beautifully with what you talked about before of summarizing the discussion board. So you can have a moderator in a group, and the moderator's job is first to identify any new directions the discussion is going. Also to identify patterns within that discussion and to steer these posts in whatever the direction that person decides it wants it to go. So the moderator has a different level of commitment because he's actually, in a way, guiding the conversation. So it places the student kind of in the role of a teacher, and it really results in engagement. And so the idea is to let every student in the group try being a moderator. So if you have 3-4 discussions throughout the semester and you have groups of 4 or 5 students, each one of them will have a chance to be the moderator.
It also helps you develop leadership skills in those students and gives you the opportunity to assess them on their ability to lead and guide the group, which is an excellent tool. All right, thank you. Yeah, that's an important piece of it.
Yeah.
Another tip for teachers to use is to provide effective grading rubrics as well as exemplars within the discussion board. So if you can show them what the expectation is and give them the opportunity to work up toward that as well as the rubric. And one of the articles, though I've not done it, is the use of video clips. Although I use the discussion board as a place to post projects, which are typically videos, but actually using video clips as a discussion prompt, which I thought was kind of an interesting perspective on it. So, rocking it, coming from your own grapevine, and this I thought was interesting. Teaching is not rocket science. It is, in fact, far more complex and demanding work than rocket science. So, on discussion boards, if they're, first of all, it's important to have a relevant and an interesting topic, something that your students are going to be able to get into and either research or pull from their own text and information. It provides, it needs to be timely responses. Again, the idea being that not having one necessarily every week, but having enough time in there for them to think through it and yet still respond and move on to the next one. Again, going back to the Socratic process, open-ended questions definitely keep a dialogue going. If there's questions that have one answer, then that's all that that your discussion isn't going anywhere, and you could do that. I don't know, they could do that in a journal response or something. And definitely to make certain that the environment is a safe one, that the students know and understand that where they are and what they're doing stays within the class, and it's a safe place for them to try out new things and to think about other things and look at the way they can rethink some of the ideas. And of course, set clear expectations, which is key for almost anything that we have our students do. And again, working in small groups. One of the articles I read was referring to an effective discussion in a class of 500 students. Don't think I'd want to try it, but it was an interesting perspective. So we have talked about reasons that we use discussion boards. We've taken a look at student perspectives. We went to the classics. We decided to let Socrates guide us in our use of them, and we shared successes. So I think we might open up the mics and see if either anybody else online would like to share. And yes, definitely. And Franz has added to the Padlet. So, but
the ones that I'd like to share from the previous slides, when I had the responses, sometimes the responses can generate additional pathways to even go into the discussion event.
yes.
So making the students feel safe is important, because then they feel safe that their responses is a contribution.
Yes.
And that can even be
definitely. And that whole idea of questions leading to deeper questions, and moving into it.
Yeah, I definitely think that the instructor involvement, giving feedback and letting learners know that you really are engaged in their conversations, and that you are actually listening to them is a crucial part. It's very, very motivating to know that you have your instructor's attention. And it's for verbal learners like me, it's a really important piece to be heard among your peers.
It is, and there's like two sides to that coin. I always worry that if I jump into a discussion, they're going to assume that, okay, that's what the teacher says, so that's the end of the discussion because that's the right answer, and I don't want it to go that way. So I try to direct and guide without being the answer, being the one response to the question.
And also to add to what she's saying, like jumping in and giving value to the students' answers, let them that the professor don't have all of the
absolutely.
And it's okay as a professor to feel safe.
Yes.
To let them that yes, I am navigating. I might be one toe ahead of you, but I'm learning from you as well.
Yeah, and let them know that what they think and put in there is as valuable as what anybody else does.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent.
And the other thing, like me, the way that I learn is by asking questions.
Yeah.
Because like when I ask, and also to have my peers ask questions too, because when they ask questions, then it makes the topic come alive. It's no longer like a flat I read, and but it makes me think of different ways because the perspective.
Yep, and it can open up a different perspective, a way of thinking about it. And the whole Socratic questioning process is really based on critical thinking and encouraging critical thinking in our students, and that truly is one of the goals that we want them to accomplish. All right, thank you for all of your input. This has been a really positive approach to the idea of discussion boards, which we all know are key and important. Next Monday, it is our Canvas Blueprint Party, and that will be simply helping anybody who wishes to come in and use the blueprint as a document for getting their courses migrated. Following Friday continues with our hit parade on group projects. Let's stay together, and groups are another extremely valuable resource for all instructors, but especially for online instructors. And then Monday the 19th is the start of our new e-certification workshop, and so our morning will be devoted to the orientation session for the new participants in the workshop, and then from 11 to 12-ish, we've invited some of our successful participants to come in and share what they have accomplished through the workshop or because of the workshop. So we're looking forward to that. And then the following Friday is a Canvas migration opportunity for everyone who would like to come. So thank you. I appreciate this.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yesterday, it was mentioned. I want to make sure before I start blabbering in the workshops that the e-cert this semester is going to be in Canvas.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Absolutely. It is in the process right now. Yeah, and that's what we have been talking about to anyone who has expressed an interest in it is that not only will you get the benefits from the e-certification workshop, understanding the research-based best practices processes for developing an online course, but you get to participate as a Canvas student. So, good learning opportunity for getting yourself started in Canvas. Yes, definitely, definitely. Thank you, and thank you for mentioning that. I should have mentioned it when I did.
Yes, because yesterday afternoon when we mentioned it in the requirement. So now,
yeah.
I guess I think
you definitely can, and encourage people. There's a link to sign up, and encourage people to go in and sign up to be a part of that e-certification workshop. Great, thank you so much.